Welcome to the Redvee TV show, supported by Chapel House Cars for the 2025 season, as we reflect on the departure of Paul Wellens as St Helens head coach that has been announced today by the club. Kev, before we get into it, what was your first reaction upon hearing the news?
Not surprised. I think after the whole KR game, you asked me what my opinion on it was, and it was that we needed to change a head coach. I think I was very clear with that. So I wasn't surprised by it. I think the one disappointment is the news leaking earlier in the week. It feels like it was ages ago, but leaking and it not being fair on Paul Wellens. I think when we have criticised coaching, we've done that from a purely that is the head coach. It doesn't matter if his name's Paul Wellens, if his name's Daniel Anderson, if his name's Ian Millwood. It doesn't matter. It's whoever the coach is. It's never personal. And this just feels like it's an absolute slight against the man, Paul Wellens.
Yeah, quite frankly, I am absolutely disgusted at the club for the manner of how this has been done. Paul Wellens, a servant of the club who made 495 appearances, won all the biggest individual trophies, won everything there is to win. And there's people in that club who have treated him in such a way, and I'm going to call them cowards. At least when we talk on here, it's us, and you know who's saying it. We're not hiding
Yeah.
behind things. But for somebody to actually go out in that club and leak it to the press when the man's still in a job and has been doing his job for the last 3 days and hadn't met with Eamon McManus until yesterday or today, was it today? Um, for that meeting to happen, it's the whole club is a shambles, and it's symptomatic of it. It's even symptomatic that I'm getting a text message at 12:30 this afternoon, which, funny enough, I didn't actually see till afterwards, to tell me that it was going to get announced at 1 o'clock. And
Mm.
that's before the club have put out an official press release. There is still people leaking the news even at that time. The club know who they are, deal with it.
Yeah.
Because you'll get to the point where we'll just start naming them on here.
Yeah. It's it just stinks of a bit of a rudderless ship at the moment, doesn't it? It nothing. I know when things are going badly, um, all the focus is on every little bit of it. Because when you're winning, people don't necessarily care about the odd mistake here, maybe the odd leak there. That, and we probably should hold people to account at a high standard at all times. But this just stinks of a complete lack of self control from these people, a complete lack of decency from these people, and a complete lack of accountability from these people. They
And do you know what,
need,
Kev? There'll be people in this club watching this. So I'm gonna say it straight now. When you talk to someone outside of the club that you think is your friend, family, wife, child, guess what? They will tell one other person, and they will tell another person, and then before you know it, it's all over this town.
yeah,
Paul Wellens must be tearing his hair out. How many times this year did the team leak? Didn't leak from Paul Wellens. And for this news to come out the way it did, there is only a couple of people at the high end of that club who knew that was happening and what was going to go on. And Eamon McManus, Mike Coleman should be making heads roll because it's not good enough.
no. As I say, it's when things are going badly, you look under a microscope. This isn't even microscopic. This isn't even just like, all right, we're going to look into everything. Or there's a spelling mistake here. Or they're not selling the right color of shirt there. This is a big thing to do with people's livelihoods as well. And yeah, it was possibly always going to end this way, especially in the latter stages of the season, especially after Hull KR. It was probably the thing of, yeah, we're going to have to make this decision. But that doesn't make it right for it to leak out in the way that it does.
No. And listen, ultimately, it's a results-based game. And unfortunately, as Wello probably knows himself, it ends up being the coach who carries the can. Um, and I'm torn on it. I'll put the graphic up. I'm really. I
What you
take
told them? Go on,
absolutely no delight in this at
go on.
all. As
No,
as
there is.
as we've said all along, I I've wanted Paul Wellens to be a success at this club and
Yeah,
put it in place. And I think if you go back on old shows, I wanted Wello to be a success and be the head coach of this team for the next 10 years so we can have a dynasty. Um, do I think Paul Wellens is the reason we are in the position we are as a club? No. Has he contributed to that? Yeah, because I don't agree with some of the decisions he has made, which have been on him. But he's just a branch, and we need to get to the root.
yeah. As you say, there's absolutely no joy in this. While I've not been necessarily having the direction of the club on the field, you're right that there are more problems than just Paul Wellens at Saints. This isn't just a buck stops, change the coach, everything magically gets better. We may see an upturn in fortunes, but now the top brass are going to go out and get another coach, and they're going to have to give another coach almost what he wants. Was Paul Wellens afforded that? We probably will never know properly
I
whether he
think
was
I think he's
afforded
worked
that.
under constraints, if I'm perfectly honest. And it stinks of the way the club is run that they've made him stand up at the end of season club awards dinner 3 weeks ago and talk about moving forward into the 2026 season, etc., and what's not gone well. Have we really been basing that decision on whether he won that game at Hull KR on Saturday, if he got to the final or not? Because that's the rumours that have been talked about around this time for weeks is that to save his job, he needed to reach the grand final.
Yeah,
You shouldn't be basing it on a one-off result. If you want to listen, if you want to argue that results haven't been good enough long term and you want to replace him, absolutely. But the fact that we've sacked him based on what's happened at the weekend tells me that there's no plan here. Why, if you knew you weren't going to renew his contract at the end of the year, you could have used it to let's win it for Wello and announced it a lot earlier and afforded him dignity to try and go out as a winner rather than it ending like it did at Hull KR and you leak it to Matt Shaw on a Sunday and then make the fella come to work for 3 days to do the rest of his job and then sack him at the end of it. It's disgusting.
yeah. It's not. It just doesn't reflect well, does it? Going back to, I think that results. People will argue that results were all right. We beat the teams that we were meant to, but we couldn't get over the line against the big teams. And I think his fall down was we almost seemed to go into them games looking not to get beaten rather than win it. We were just trying to nick it in almost playoff style rugby. We were looking to try and nick a game. And once we went a couple of scores down, there wasn't the Saints of old necessarily to start throwing it about. We saw glimpses of it. We saw one of the great moments that a Wello team give us against Leeds. Um, you kind of saw it a little bit of it against Hull KR, where we got it out to the outside backs. But unfortunately, the side that we went out to, you ended up with a second rower at centre and a utility back on the wing, and it just all fell down. So you could see that we could get it out wide, but it didn't feel like there'd been a change from the 5 drives and a kick under Christian Wolf that we could do because we were fitter, stronger, and you could balance your game off that. And literally could go through a game, wear a team down, and then start flinging it about.
So this goes back to my question that I'm going to ask you now, Kev, then. What was it Paul Wellens or was it the tools he was given weren't good enough? Or a combination of both?
Combination of both for me. Combination of both. When you don't know your correct spine, and I know spanner in the works with Jack Wellsby getting injured, but you don't know your correct spine. You don't know the strongest one, and you kind of stumble across a winning formula, which then you change because Jack Wellsby's got to come back into the team, and Jack Wellsby does have to come back into that team. But then you start mucking about with it, putting Wellsby at 13. Wellsby comes in at 1. Tristan Sailor's at 1. Johnny Lomax is at 7. Oh, hang on, is it Moses and By at 7? But people asking, where's George Whitby in all this? I feel like decisions like that don't help. the cause. Absolutely don't help the cause. The fact that we're playing the same way and not really changing it up, because the glimpses that you see of us playing well, I think where's that? Where's the rest of that? I thought at the start of this season we brought in Lee Briers, Eamon O'Carroll as new coaching staff, and we're going to see a new brand of Saints, us going out there and enjoying ourselves and putting on a bit of a show. And we didn't get that. When you've got decisions like, and I'll name Iggy Parsi on this one because he was the player who got dropped down to the reserves, and I know that we're probably shy of a prop in our squad, but he gets dropped down to the reserves to learn, and then the week after is the first interchange because you know what, he's then leapfrogged the other lads who are on the bench to come on. Everything like this, whether it's Wello saying it wrong, whether it's he means it in a different way and everybody's construed it in the way that we did, that he's dropped out to go and learn lessons, and really what he means is I just wanted him to have another run out. It all just seems, it all goes against him for me, that. And there's been no effort to try and change your type of game. Every rugby player can pass a ball. There is no reason why we can't get it out to the wingers. And instead of just taking it down the middle, put it through your second rows and centres and let them have a run and try and spread the pitch a little bit, because it causes teams problems, especially when they see us, because they think we're so narrow that we're not going to do that. So there's just a couple of things. I mean, the team that we've got, yeah, we need an overhaul. The club need to be making massive moves in the market over the next couple of weeks. Huge moves. So the tools probably aren't the sharpest, but I do feel like we played well within what we could.
Yeah.
And I expect us to at least have knocked off one of them scalps that the record, what is it, none in 20, is it, or none in 21 or something? We should have knocked off one of them in the past 20 odd games.
My my issue my issue with Wello, and I think what's got him sacked, and I think I've said this earlier in the year, consistently sticking with players, senior players, based on their history, who are continuously letting him down, I said would get him the sack.
Yeah,
So, and this is he's not. It's not just one. There's numerous decisions, but consistently picking an Ignatius Parsi all year and getting the same bad tune out of him when you've got options there. Now, if you're blooding the likes of Noah Stevens instead and you're losing games, at least people can see that, do you know what? We're planning for the future here. But when you're playing such poor players in poor form because what they did helped you 2, 3 years ago, and you've got credit in the bank, that's what's going to get you the sack. But then equally, I would argue that was he put in a great position just by giving them a 12-month extension last year? You could listen. There's
yeah,
enough people who would argue that you shouldn't have given him a 12-month extension last year, but by only giving him 12 months, he's been on the firing line all the way through. That he's on the hot seat. He could be out of a job if he doesn't get results. So you could almost argue, as well, who looked at it in his own head and thought, I haven't got the time to be bedding youth in for the future because my job's the here and now, and I'm literally going week to week trying to save my job and get another year off the back of that. And ultimately, his decision hasn't worked out for him based on the results. But then, in terms of recruitment, yes, we know he didn't know his spine all year, but was that muddied by the signing of somebody like Tristan Saylor? What was Tristan Saylor signed as? Who authorised that signing? Who who found him? Who authorised it? And was it Paul Wellens? Now, if Paul Wellens authorised the sign and said, yes, I want Tristan Saylor, I'm going to play him in position X, and then has changed his mind, that's on Wello. But it's almost like we just decided we needed some pace, so we just went out and bought what was available rather than what we need. And then once we had him, because he was a big overseas signing, it left us a problem where you played him. When we suddenly realised, oh, we've signed him as a half and he's not actually a half, it left a problem. Now, who authorised that? Was that Mike Rush? Was that the scouting team in Australia? Was that based on the recommendation of Lee Breers? But I almost think Wello's been left to hang out to dry there. But then he could have redeemed himself by using the likes of George Whitby more instead of canning him out the team after 11, 12 rounds or whatever it was in Super League once he got a HIA, never to be seen again. He's not helped himself with when he puts Noah Stevens in the squad, only putting him on for 6 or 7 minutes as if he's playing to a script. He's not helped himself by consistently changing his spine. He's not helped himself by playing the aged, decrepit Moses and Bai in the halves with very little kicking game and just wanting a steady Eddie there, which with no inspiration when you know he's not the future of this club and he's leaving the end of the year. He's made errors, be in no doubt. But as I'm going to show you on this next slide, Kev, these are everyone who's made an appearance from Josh Eaves in July 2019. When you look through that list, there is what I'm looking at it now 2, 4, 6. Hang on, maybe it'd be easy just to do it. 48 players
Yeah.
rather than count them. There's 48 players on that list since 2019. This is 48 players who've come to the club or made their debut since July 2019, 6.5 years. Ultimately, how many of them have been good enough to play for the club?
Yeah.
I'm going to go
It's a good
through it.
point.
Jake Wingfield, yes. Lewis Dodd was never the Lewis Dodd would have been the go
Where we
back in
go?
time now. Lewis Dodd, listen, was seen as the future at one point.
Yeah.
And obviously got that awful injury and was never quite the same player. Jake Wingfield, yes. Sione Matausia, yes. Parsi in his first year,
Yeah. I
maybe,
think
yeah.
Pazzi in his first year, I think we were enthused by Pazzi in his first year.
Yeah.
And I say
Um,
we as a collective.
Benison was an all right kid. Did a job for
Yeah.
us, steady Eddie. Will Hopewati, not good enough. Conrad Harrell, listen, he proved us wrong for a bit, but resorted to type at the end. Again, who authorised his contract for 2025? Because it obviously wasn't Wello because he never wanted to use him and never showed any inclination to ever play him. So who has authorised that? Who has wasted the club's money? If you listen to Mike Rush at the end of season awards, he said he's the one in the office who did it. So Mike Rush can own that one. Again,
Yeah.
money that could have been better spent elsewhere on a position in the squad of need that Wello wanted. Sironen, good signing. James Bell, good signing. That's it for that side of the list. George
Yeah.
Delaney, good kid. Darryl Clark, adequate replacements for
James Roby. Yeah.
James Roby. What you never going to replace Roby, but good enough. Whitley, squad player, decent enough.
Yeah.
Noah, good kid coming through. Harry Robertson, star that we've just stumbled upon. Whitby, a potential future star. Lewis Murphy, not good enough. Tristan Saylor, you wouldn't be renewing his contract if it was up this year. He's got a lot to prove. Owen Dagnall, kid, felt the jury's out. Since 2019, there's about 4 or 5 players on that list you could justifiably say has been good recruitment. Now, listen, we were in the midst of a 4 in a row. We've been stung by all of the contract extensions that we give to, and we look back, it's in hindsight. There's no one at that point in time, 2, 3 years ago, that you would have said, yeah, don't renew because we were at the peak of the powers. But ultimately, Paul Wellens is like, I'd say David Moyes, whoever, taken over from Alex Ferguson at Man United at the wrong time and hasn't had the tools available to get what he wants, or get the tune he needs. This side was always going to be on the down. I wonder whether if you'd have kept Justin Holbrook or Christian Wolf, whether we'd be in a similar position results wise, because ultimately the squad is no longer good enough to compete with Wigan and Hull KR, and it doesn't matter who comes in next. I don't think it's going to be any time soon that we're going to be challenging.
It's not going to be a quick fix, is it? Absolutely not going to be a quick fix. I think there'd have been a lot less emotion in a decision if we'd have had Justin Holbrook or Christian Wolf. It'd have been, yeah, well, it's time for you to go because you're an Aussie, you're not a club legend. Because Wello will always be a club legend, and we're going to get that in as well. He absolutely will be. Same as
100%.
Kieran Cunningham, always a club legend. But there have probably been less of the emotion around it, where people are saying like the we had Peter Elder. He was saying that he was upset at the decision. He thought it was the right decision, but he was upset. Why was he feeling so upset about it? Because you're a well-rounded individual, Peter. The
I'm a
fact that you
well-rounded individual. There's plenty of Everton managers I've seen get sacked and have joyously celebrated. With this one, well,
club legend,
you can see my anger in how it's been done.
yeah, club legend wise though. I think that's the difference. It's not us getting rid of, say, a Royce Simmons or an Ian Millward. This is us getting rid of a club legend, and that's why people are upset. There'd have been a lot less of that if it was a Royce Simmons
I
who we
almost
were
think
getting.
I'll also argue that there's a lot of people in the hierarchy of the club who are responsible for the recruitment who
Yeah,
have been able to use Paul Wellens as a shield to deflect. Paul Wello's got all the stick. And do you know what? Listen, looking back, you could almost argue Lauren Fresnel got a lot of stick.
oh, he did. Yeah,
He might have been the shield last year for Wello, but Wello's been used by the upper echelons of this club as the shield this year. What I will say is there is no hiding place now.
no, there's
I
not.
almost think we will revert to type. When things are going wrong, we'll go and get an Aussie assistant coach. And my thinking on that one is I know there's a lot of talk about Paul Rowley coming in, Paul Rowley, whatever you want to call him. He doesn't like pressure. He's never gone to a club that the pressure is on to deliver in a way that there will be at Saints. I think he's played a blinder this year at Salford, the way he's managed the club and guided them through. I'm sure he's probably been the one who's been looked after by the club to make sure that he stayed in charge and steadied the ship. He's done it and he's played attractive rugby, but he's never done it at a club where the pressure is on to win. I don't think he'll want to take this poison chalice. You only heard what he was saying um, on the interview in Sky about how easy we are to play against. He'll know that this club requires major surgery. Whoever comes in is going to take time to do that. Now, if we go and get an Aussie assistant coach, they'll almost get a year or two's grace based on how bad we are. And we can and they can run with the argument it's going to take time to turn something round. I don't think an English-born English coach would get that luxury to do that. Um, but I think we need to clear out across the board. Wello is the branch, but I think we need a root sack everyone approach. Quite frankly, I
It's
said
very
it weeks ago, and it
yeah.
probably didn't go down too well. But there's a lot of people in that club who should be gone. We need a fresh. It just needs a fresh broom through it because there's no hiding place now. Whoever gets recruited next, it's on them. End of. If it doesn't work out, how long can you keep just blaming whoever the coach is in charge?
I just want to go back and ask you because I'm this is its criticism when I say you've done a lot of talking. It's been quite good to listen to you go. Do you not think Paul Rowley will back himself to turn it around at Saints? This is this time to step up away from a team who aren't necessarily fancied, and you can go and properly make your mark and be at Saints for the next 3, 4, 5 years. And with regards to an Aussie assistant, do you not think that the way that Saints fans are currently looking for things to change, that they would be under the same amount of pressure? And
Do you think this club's fan base, including ourselves, are willing to give a coach 4 or 5 years to turn things round?
I'm not on about Paul Rowley taking 4 or 5 years to turn things around. I'm
Well,
saying he's
I think
here
that's
for
what
four
I
or
think
five
that's what it's going to take because this squad. Now we discussed it coming back from um, Hull on Saturday night. Feels like a lifetime ago. How many of this current team are actually good enough
Yeah.
at this moment in time? Um, how many are good enough to keep going? Or how many of this team? What's the? Have you
Well,
got a good
well, well,
nucleus? Maybe. Let me just go through it. So
well
Jack
no,
Wellows
no,
beat
no,
yes,
no, no, don't, because we're going to go through this in
yeah.
our end of season anyway. So if you go through that, there's no point doing more videos.
Okay, well, there's a lot of players at the end of their careers We've got
Yeah,
a good 4 or 5, but I think we're now at the point where we're going to do a Leeds. There's that many holes. You can't. It's going to be like whack-a-mole. You're just not going to be able to do it in anytime soon. And I think you've got the added pressure of 3 Super League teams coming, or 3 teams coming up who are all going to be recruiting, and we're now in the same market. Look at the players like London are signing. If anybody decent comes on the market anytime soon and they're throwing money at it, any Aussie, any decent Aussie from the NRL is one going to live in London. Ultimately, why would you? You can't even look at Saints now and go, well, do you know what? You're going to come to Saints because you're in the hunt for trophies. We're not. We're not. And
I
if you've got
think
a trophy here in London, you go in there at the minute. And how sad is that to say as a Saints fan?
I think the thing with recruitment as well is you're right when you mention whack-a-mole, and we'll end up with whack-a-mole type players again. But
Who
that's what's going to
authorised
happen.
that?
Yeah, it's what, but it looks like what's going to happen. You have a look at the latest lad to sign for London, the loose forward whose name escapes me, who can play a bit of nine, who's linked with us. You know what? If we'd have announced him like this week, people would have gone, well, we've been linked with him for a good couple of weeks, so that's been bubbling along under the radar. Because the players that we'll end up signing, we've not been linked with for a couple of weeks. It looks like you're going in, picking the first player off the rack and going, they'll do. That's the
We've
issue.
announced the signing last week. Jacob Host. With quotes from Wello about how he
Yeah,
spoke to Wello about next year.
yeah.
Bonkers. We, I'm just flabbergasted.
We're, we're
We've
back to
re-signed players for next year. Serenan's re-signed. Parsy's re-signed. The club haven't told us because they know what reaction they're going to get. Who authorised them? Because was it Wello? Probably not. So somebody else is picking his squad for him and expecting him to work miracles. You can't polish a turd.
at the minute we can't
You can
even
put
roll on in
sprinkles on it,
glitter.
but it's still a
No,
turd.
yeah, at the minute we can't even roll ours in glitter. It's yeah, the whole thing with the club just feels like not only have eyes got off the ball, but we've literally just walked in and left it bouncing down the road.
Mike Coleman, there are employees in that club wasting your money. There are employees in that club not generating enough income from what they could be doing. The end.
Nothing to add
Clip
to
it,
that. Yeah,
clip it, and send it to him.
yeah.
We're not good
We've
enough
had
off the field. We're not good enough on the field. And if you're not good enough off the field, it invariably ends up leaking over to the on-field performances because
I think
everything about the club, whether it be the staff available to Wello to actually run the team, what roles certain people are doing in that club, the investment down the scale. Because look, let's be honest, we've been battered at every age group this year. Mike Danson's coming at Wigan and completely invigorated the club. Why are Wigan being successful? Because they've got Chris Radlinski in place, who've put the right um,
structures
frameworks
in
in
the right.
place. Now, I gather it's probably upset people at Saints. It almost looks like we've decided to go on Derek Bowman's bandwagon instead of backing Wigan. Wigan are going to dominate alongside probably Hull KR because they've invested a load for the next few years. Our time at this moment in time is gone, and I'm angry not because we're not. I'm angry not because we're not winning, because we're not doing anything about solving it, and we feel like we're still on the slide. We haven't reached the bottom yet.
Feels very passive.
Again, how are we selling season tickets? I put a poster up on social media today with guess who?
Brilliant.
Just silhouettes. Turn up at the opening game and find out who we're playing. Somebody actually said we should sell an advent calendar, and as you open each door, it's got whoever's having that squad number for the year.
I think one thing that people have got out of this video today is they've really seen one of our conversations in the car on the way home. Because this is what it was like pretty much most of the way home, probably until we got to Hearts Head Moor and then stopped and like at a minute. But it's that frustration, it's the anger, it's the sometimes you just not got words for it, have you? Where you're just thinking, why's it come to this? Why have we got to this? Why have we not got stuff over the line? You think of even earlier in the season when we were linked with Levi Edwards of York. What's happened to him? Did we, did we not try and get that over the line earlier in the year?
It's
Was it ever an option? Was it a link? Because from what we heard, it was a proper solid link. Now he might have changed his mind, but it's yet another one that you look back and you think, what happened to that? Because Levi Edwards isn't on the books at York anymore. So what's happened?
who are we signing? What's the plan? And you know
Yeah,
what? This should be a show purely reflecting on Wello, but if we're saying it, was Paul Wellens asking the same questions?
you'd hope so.
Who'd want to wait for this club when you can't even pick a team without it being all round the town 2 days before? Who'd want to wait for a club where they're announcing that you're getting sacked and then expecting you still to come and wait for 3 days and finish off the player reviews for the year and meet with your team? And
Oh, it's
if
mad.
that's how you're treating a club legend, what are you doing? It's almost like there's people in that club actively working against it at times.
Yeah,
You only have to see us on our show last Thursday. I named the team. I
yeah,
named the 17 that was playing and said Mark Percival's injured. And do you know why I did it? Because no one at the club cares. Genuinely, no one cares. They know who the leak is. They've been told who the leak is for the team. They could have nipped it in the bud by saying, do you know what? Just stop telling that person, please. But they've carried on doing it. It's a basket case of a club. And listen, I'm sure we're not unique in the sports rugby league because there's a lot of basket case clubs. But I'm sad for Paul Wellens. Um, ultimately, he's contributed to his own downfall at the end. But I think there's a lot of contributing circumstances that a lot of people should be looking themselves in the mirror and being very, very lucky that they are still in a job. And it almost
yeah,
feels if our owner didn't live in Singapore and was on the doorstep of the club on a daily basis, there'd be a lot more people under the microscope there. Unfortunately, he's entrusting them to manage his asset and they're making a pig's ear of it, in my
yeah,
opinion.
kind of, yeah,
In my
yeah.
opinion.
I'm not going to disagree with any of that.
And if you argue that, well, I'll look at the club accounts and I'll look at the club performance on the pitch. And I'll look at the list of players we've signed in the last 6 years and tell me how many of them are good enough. Even all the kids who've come through, how many of them are actually good enough? I know you get one or two, but they're not the caliber of players that we've had in years gone by. Why are we getting why are we getting all the local youth, the best in this town, apparently signing for Wigan at the minute? Why are we hearing about even junior women's players having the choice between St Helens and Wigan and choosing to sign for Wigan and not even getting a call from the club because there's just an expectation that they're going to sign for them?
Yeah, I
You're hearing
think.
stories at every age group, at every level, on the men's and women's team. And
Does it feel like we've always done it this way, so we're always going to continue to do it this way?
it's living
Because
in the
that's what it
past.
feels like to me. Yeah, that's what it feels like to me. We've always done it this way. So if they don't want to come to Saints, there's only Saints in the town. If they don't want to come to Saints, well, that's on them. Rather than being, that's who we want. We've identified we want player A, player B, player F, player G, player H. We want all them. Make sure they sign. Let's not muck about. Make sure they sign.
We've probably not been a level in Super League in many a year where there's so many teams competing for the same top players. Listen, like it or not, Lee have joined the table. Leeds are at the table. Wigan are at the table. Warrington have got a backer. You've got London coming in, who'll have Darren Lockyer and the London factor for players. we are not the draw that we once were. And if you, Saints' success was always built on the solid foundation of good youth coming through and being in the right positions and then sprinkling your overseas signs around that. And listen, you could argue that there probably is the nucleus there if Whitby, Stevens, Robertson all come in and take their place in the team. That's probably what's cost Weller this year, not bedding them in. Um,
Yeah,
but we're just a mess. And
yeah.
I'm angry. And as you can tell, this has probably been a bit of a rant, but
I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it.
therapeutic. Listen, we don't sit on the fence. We're probably the only local Saints media that don't sit on the fence and actually try and give an opinion. So there you have it. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. Let us know in the comments below.
Yeah. You feeling better?
No, I'm upset for Wello. Genuinely upset. As much as I think it's the right decision that needed to happen for his sake. Do you know what? I genuinely hope Wello decides. Do you know what? I'm going to Australia and I'll go and work under Christian Wolf as assistant in the NRL. Enjoy the sunshine for a few years with my family. Rebuild your reputation that has been damaged by this club have contributed to with the tools they've give you. I just hope whoever doesn't come in, well, I say I hope, whoever comes in next needs to be given the tools and needs to be able to say, I need X, Y, and Z in the backroom team to do the job.
But but then that reflects horrifically if they give the next person X, Y, and Z and didn't give
It does,
well
but
X, Y, and Z.
for the sake of the club, if they don't, it's just
Yeah,
going to be rinse and repeat. At the end of the day, Paul Wellens, while he's made mistakes as head coach and there's probably going to be reasons behind it, some of his own doing and some where he'll be able to explain, like, I didn't want T. Ritson. Who gave T. Ritson a new contract? Genuinely, did Paul Wellens sign that off? If he did, okay, sack him for that alone. But if he didn't, who did? And whoever did should be sacked. End of. Waste the money. You're wasting someone's money. So it's just shambolic. He was a Paul Wellens was a fantastic assistant coach. Maybe listen, sometimes the best assistants don't make head coaches. Look at Brian Kidd for Man United. Never quite made it as a coach on his own, but was a fantastic assistant. But Paul Wellens was really highly thought of as an assistant coach. He was, if rumours to believe, Wigan were touted around him, trying to take him as head coach if he didn't get the job here, and he stuck around for Saints and
yeah,
took the post. Um, I just feel he got delivered a really bad hand, and I wish the man nothing but the best.
correct. Absolutely right. And it's good to end on that. That while I think the decision's right, I do wish him the best. He's a club legend. He's an absolute hero. He's an icon. He's a player that I've watched as I've grown up because he's a year above me, skill year above me. He's someone that I really respect, and he seems like a proper top bloke, proper nice bloke. It's his decisions have not helped him though, and I suppose that's just it with being a sports coach. Those decisions that you make can either come off and you look a hero, or they don't, and you know what? People look for the reasons why you shouldn't be in charge.
Yeah.
But he deserves respect. He deserves our respect, and he deserves our best wishes. And yeah, absolutely pass them on because this is never personal. The coach, it's just about whoever is St. Helens head coach. It's not about Paul Wellens, the man. It's never been about Christian Wolf, about Justin Holbrook, about Kieran Cunningham, the head coaches that we've had in this time that we've been doing this. It's never about them as people.
And
It's
do you
about
know what,
being
Kev?
head coach.
Driving back down the 62 on Saturday night, I think you saying man said to me, said you've hated doing Redvee this year. You've
Yeah,
hated
absolutely.
you've hated not doing Redvee itself, but hated having to
Yeah.
be in a position where you're criticising Paul Wellens
Mm.
and being negative because genuinely the man's give us some of our greatest moments as Saints. And let's not forget he did go to Australia and give Saints the greatest ever result. Essentially,
Yeah.
we've grew up with Paul Wellens in the team as a man. He's an absolute gentleman. the time he spent with us, interviewing him pre-season. Um, he's a really good man. Um, really good man, really good family man. And for him to, yeah,
Yeah, going back to your point, it's been horrific having to do this. And I've not done it because I thought, oh, I need to be negative now, or I need to start speaking again. This is just opinion. It's my opinion, and I know already seen people on social media saying they think it's the wrong one, or the gutted. It shouldn't. It should have given him another 12 months. Again, that's fine. It's fine to have your opinion. The only difference is we do this, so it gets out on a video.
I've flip-flopped
Yeah,
repeatedly. I personally, it, based on the results, it's inevitable. I would like to see Paul Wellens. I've seen how he worked in circumstances where he had what he needed and given the right tools to do it. Unfortunately, he's had a mishmash of tools and he's used them poorly.
yeah, yeah. Agreed.
All right, bye. Not much more to add to that.
Not really.
Right, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And we've probably said some bits that you agree with, some that you don't. Let us know in the comments below. Genuinely gutted, but there we are. Don't forget
Yep.
to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll catch you very soon as we carry on until the end of the 2025 year.